Now that I've defended one of the most controversial creative choices in one of the most contentious video games of all time, it only seems right to bash one of the most critically acclaimed ones in order to further cement myself as someone who knows nothing about game design. The fact is that Lucas's representation in Brawl is far from perfect, but I'm willing to let it go a bit since it was the first time he was adapted to another form. Think about it, 3D was Lucas's second step. How many game characters appear once, then immediately go to 3D with their next appearance? Oh, not everyone can be Mario when making that leap. Not everyone can be Ocarina of Time on their first go. Point is that this was their first shot at bringing Lucas into a new world, so some missteps were honestly to be expected. The third time though? First, Lucas was cut by the next game, then re-added via DLC. Seeing as Lucas is a first-party character for Nintendo, this means the team looked at him after Brawl and went, well, you're not important. Look at you, can't even make it overseas. Look at Ness, he made it overseas. Look, he's doing it again. Hey, Lucas, don't cry over this. It's no big deal. You should be crying that your family's dead. Fast forward to 2018, everyone's here, and you know Lucas got that invite and was like, oh joy, it's so nice to be included, and looked past all the emotional abuse and ran right back to them like nothing ever happened. Wouldn't be the first time. And I know all about that, running back to your abusers. I finished Chicken Little on Game Boy. Anyway, so you returned, not being able to resist another beating so traumatizingly close. So why is Lucas that bad in Ultimate? Well, first off, I'm not looking at him in a competitive sense. We're talking about him purely in the realm of his inclusion in the universe. One thing I can credit them on is that Lucas's alts left a lot to be desired in his previous iterations, but on this go they decided to actually give him some costumes reflective of his game. Somewhat. They at least tried. Like, yeah, some of them are still a bit abstract, but they're miles ahead of the ones before. Like, people are delusional with what they see. Pajamas? No, they're not. They're arbitrary colors some overworked art director chose for a character from a game he didn't play so he could get to the most relaxing part of his day when he's depressed on the train ride home. Long story short, costumes are decent. I also think between him and Ness, he has the cooler render. Has more personality. A cool thing they decided to add in for Ultimate was reconfiguring the whole classic mode. In the past, every character had more or less the same one with only the opponents changing, and it made it really boring if you were attempting to complete it for all of them. So in Ultimate, they made custom ones for each character that either focus on a central theme or tell a little story. The themed ones are something, but the story ones are undeniably better. It just feels like a bit more thought went into them. Take Donkey Kong's for example. It's called Journey to New Donk City and has Donkey Kong go on a little adventure to
the big city.
He starts in the jungle, takes a plane ride, kills some kids in the suburbs, and he arrives. He even has Diddy Kong as an ally the whole time. It's like a baby Donkey Kong Country game. Donkey Kong Cross Country.
Monkey!
Link's is an example of a pretty fun themed one, called A Quest to Seal Darkness, where all the stages are designed around the idea of vanquishing evil, and isn't just limited to villains. Sure, you have your giant Ridley and Ganondorf, but there's also a 1v1 against Bayonetta, a witch, and against Dark Link, a la Zelda 2. This one culminates in a final boss battle against Ganon himself, fought similarly to the same boss in Ocarina of Time. It's cool and you can just tell some thought went into this, and it still builds like a story, albeit more conceptual. So, what does Lucas get? A route called Magic, Sacred Powers, and PSI, also conceptual. Not a bad choice for him since the Mother series never shied away from the more abstract, thought-provoking stuff. So let's take a look at it. First stage is a 1v1 against Ness and Magickin. Good idea, Ness is a PSI user, and Magickin is a very conceptual location, neat. Next stage is a 1v2 against two Robins. I get it, because they use magic, alright. Next up is Rosalina and Luma in Gusty Garden Galaxy. I guess. She has a wand, but in Mario Galaxy I always assumed it was more for, utilitarian purposes. Like, it was sort of a steering wheel for the Comet Observatory, but whatever, details, sure, it's magic. Next opponent is Giant Palutena. This one's one of the better ones in my opinion. Yeah, on the surface it's just, she uses magic, put her in. But I actually appreciate the thought process behind this one. Like, she grants Pit his wings, like the story of Icarus. It's from ancient Greece, a land of lots of sorcery and magic, but yeah, it's okay. Next is Bayonetta, and alright, yeah, she's a witch, I get it, she has hexes, and Lucas has mommy issues, but yeah, again, this one's fine, it's serviceable. Finally, before the final boss is Mewtwo, and yes, this is a good pick. Mewtwo is a psychic type and resembles Gygus, so yes, I like this. I understand the Kalos Pokemon League is a Pokemon stage and it terraforms and all that, but I wish it could have been a stage more mother-like to really drive home the point that the Gygus angle was what they were going for, because I think it is, but this setting honestly also just as easily can indicate it was just a coincidence. Next is the bonus stage, and here's how you play these things. Lucas's final bosses are Master Hand and Crazy Hand, and you know what, I'm fine with that. And then it ends. The love theme plays over the credits, and his congratulations picture is of him and his Klaus-inspired alt with a Mr. Saturn. All fine and good. Overall, it's okay. I mean, whatever, right? How much attention has the Mother series in the grand scheme of things really gotten from the Smash series? A fine amount, nothing crazy. I mean, just look at Ness's classic mode. It's whoa! Oh, what? It's actually really cool and realized? What? Ness's adventure is called Home to Net, and for the sake of comparison, we're gonna take a quick look at it. First off, it's not as conceptual as Lucas's. First stage, like Lucas's, is in Magicant, with Ness in a 1v1 against his blue-purple alt. Clearly evoking the idea of Ness fighting against his nightmare at the end of Magicant, it's cool and relates to his origin. Next up is a fight against Lucas in Newport City. It includes Mother 3, and guess what? Ness actually appears in Newport in Mother 3. 2 birds, 1 stone. Third stage, you fight 3 Rob CPUs in Foresight. Deep cut here, this is a reference to the Sentry robots in the Monotoli building. Now, that's creative. Stage 4 is a fight against Sheik in Gerudo Valley and a high drop rate of Mr. Saturns, meant to be suggestive of Saturn Valley. Saturn Valley. But to be honest, I have no idea what Sheik is meant to be representative of, other than sort of resembling a nomad, and I assume it isn't this guy. The Smash Wiki also says it's a reference to Dusty Dunes Desert, but I think this is wrong. Next is a 1v2 against some Dark Toon Links on Luigi's Mansion, references to the zombies from 3, and though albeit probably accidental, the mansion might also be a reference to the haunted house from Mother 1. Ness's final proper stage is in Onet against Villager and Isabelle, an allusion to the sharks and runaway dogs at the beginning of the game. And after the bonus stage, the mode concludes with a fight against Master Hand and Crazy Hand. Again, I'm fine with this, as most characters end with this fight, and it makes sense for Ness culturally, as his presence was made known to a much wider audience through Smash. So from that perspective, it makes sense for him to face off against a symbol for that series. Credits roll, and the ending picture is of the Chosen 4 in Onet. Very cute and reminiscent of lots of official Earthbound art. If you didn't notice, the mode's a recreation of Earthbound in reverse, whoa! So why is Lucas's so phoned in by comparison? The obvious answer would be since Mother 3 never saw an international release, it'd be a lot of work to put into a mode most people wouldn't get. Here's the thing. We know for a fact Nintendo was and is fully aware of the fan translation project, and how many people are really, seriously playing Lucas who aren't familiar with Mother 3? And it's not like any completionists or anything would have to play it anyway. There's no achievement for completing every character's classic mode. Lucas is frankly a character deserving of a lot more than this. With the amount of agony a toy put into getting Mother 3 made over the course of more than a decade, a person loyal to Nintendo as a company and the creator of some of their most acclaimed games, does Lucas not warrant at least a little more effort? So screw it, I'm gonna offer my own fixed versions of his classic mode. That's right, versions, not version. I'm going to design 2 classic modes for him, one to fit into each category, of the more literal and conceptual. Only rule is no DLC fighters or stages, since these hypothetical modes would need to be played on the base game. And now, I shall tap into my 8-year-old mindset of role-playing in Brawl's training mode, pretending to have little stories. They're in love. Starting with the more literal storyline, I've based it on the chapters Lucas is played as in Mother 3. So the first stage is a 2v1 against a giant Yoshi. Your ally is Lucas's Klaus alt and is meant to represent when the two of them are play fighting with the Dragos during the prologue. If you want, you could maybe throw in Greninja's brown alt to suggest the Mole Cricket. Chose this stage because of its good outsidey vibes. Next up is a 2v1 with Duck Hunt as your ally to suggest Boney, but Isabelle could work if you want, against Pink Wolf on the Spirit Train stage. This stage is a reference to Chapter 4 when Lucas and Boney are going down the railroad tracks to Club Titty-Boo, and the Pink Wolf is meant to represent a mushroom. Chose Pink Wolf over other dog characters due to him being an overall more threatening presence. Additionally, he could start off the battle with a Ramble and Mushroom item since they're also on the railroad tracks. Yeah, this stage is a bit more of a stretch, but hey, nobody's perfect. Stage 3 is on Prism Tower, meant to suggest Thunder Tower from Chapter 5, where you'll be accompanied by a blue Luigi ally, referencing Duster, seen as Luigi also attacks with kicks, and the opponents are 2 Pichus and a giant Pikachu. They all go with the stage bean from Pokemon and suggest the Short Circuit Zap and Mr. Generator. Stage 4 is the 2v3 on Gower Plain. Here, your ally will be a pink Robin, referencing Kumatora, and you'll be facing off against 3 purple Donkey Kongs. This scene is meant to reference the battle against the Barrier Trio on the mountain of Tane Island in Chapter 7. 3 purple Incineroars could also work just as well. The next stage is a straight 1v2 against Wario and Ness in Newport City. I chose Wario to represent Facade, as well as him being the main antagonist of Lucas in Brawl, and Ness as Lucas's sort of rival as a protagonist of the Mother series, and him being in the movie shown at the theater in game. This of course is all in tribute to Chapter 8, with Miracle Facade also being a boss in the sewers. The final regular stage is a 2v8 in Midgar. Your ally would be the yellow-green snake, and you'd be facing off against Giant Bowser Jr. and the Koopa Kids. This is meant to reference the battles against the Mecha Porkies and Porky himself towards the end of Chapter 8, with Snake as your ally to reference Flint's presence during these sections as well. If I had things my way, the stage would be in the Northern Cave, as I think the drop during the stage would go with the quick dropping elevator and the aesthetics of the final area. But I'm not allowed, as the stage is DLC that was bundled with Set to Heroes. So I ultimately settled on Midgar for its industrial and monochromatic look, which still evokes some of the ideas of New Pork's inner workings. And finally, although predictable, the final boss would be a 1v1 on Final Destination against Lucas's Klaus Alt, like the final boss of Mother 3. And if you want, you could also throw in a team battle with them working together against Crazy Hand and Master Hand afterwards, as it'd be kind of a battle of the twins. The ending image could stay though. And now for the more conceptual version of Classic Mode, I'm titling this one Love and Friendship, for they're two of the many themes of Mother 3. The idea of this route is for Lucas to fight against several foes who encapsulate different understandings of love and friendship. That's why it's the title. First stage is a 1v2 against Peach and Mario on Peach's castle as a show of romantic love, and the castle as a home. Pretty straightforward, no gimmicks to this fight. Next stage is another 1v2, now against Link and Zelda on the Temple stage, going for the same idea as the previous one, with Link in his Call of the Wild outfit, as the outfit itself is meant as a reference to classic Zelda. It harkens back to the NES days, when Zelda was more of a simple rescue the girl story. Stage 3 is another 1v2 against Ryu and Ken at Suzaku Castle, as a suggestion of friendly competition and rivalry, and they're also in love. Stage 4 is a 1v8 against Bowser and his kids on Mushroom Kingdom U, bringing love of family into the mix, specifically that of a parent and their children. And I picked the stage as the new Super Mario Bros. Games were really what brought the Koopa Kids back into the mainstream. A 1v8 could be a bit much though, so if you wanted to throw in an ally, I'd understand that, and would suggest Blue Luigi, as again is an easy reference to Duster, and he's already part of the Mario series. Last normal stage would be a 1v3 against one of each Mii fighter on the stage PictoChat 2. Seeing as Miis were meant as a way to involve more casual gamers and their friends and families into games, this makes sense to me, and PictoChat was a social experience for friends to be able to mess around on together. Deep cuts only. This mode would conclude with a 1v2 against Lucas's Klaus Alt and Red Daisy in New Pork City, not only to suggest Hanawa's intervention in the final battle, but as another symbol of family and parental love. I chose Daisy to represent Hanawa for her brown hair and flower motif, as Hanawa is closely related to sunflowers. So there's two versions of Lucas's classic mode that offer more than his actual one. And look, I'm not saying my versions are necessarily better than the ones he was given, but they certainly have more thought put into them, and I think Lucas as a character is at least worth that amount of effort. But let's take it a step further for a moment. What if there was a straight up Mother 3 mode in Ultimate? Like a classic mode for just straight up Mother 3? Well, if you're this far into the video, it's probably safe to say you like Super Smash Bros. And Mother 3, so let's do this one too. My proposed Mother 3 mode would be a retelling of the story, so starting off the first stage would be a 1v1 in Gerudo Valley with Snake vs Mecha Ridley, as a reference to the boss of Chapter 1. Next one would be a 2v1 on Castle Siege with you as Blue Luigi and Pink Robin against Giant Piranha Plant. Yeah, the Oso Snake was definitely one of the harder ones to figure out, so this was the closest I could think of. This stage is obviously inspired by Chapter 2. Stage 3 would be a 1v1 on Distant Planet, with the player as Diddy Kong fighting against a giant metal Bowser Jr. to represent Salsa fighting the Pork Tank at the end of Chapter 3. And you could throw in the Pink Robin ally here too if you wanted, since Kumator is in your party during this battle. Stage 4 is Lucas and Duck Hunt versus 3 Kirbys in the Great Cave Offensive, the competitive player's choice stage. This references the scene in Chapter 4 in which Lucas and Boney work at the Clayman factory in Mines, with the Kirbys standing in for the Claymen, and if I had everything my way, they'd all be grey. Chapter 5 stage is a 2v2 against 2 Incineroars on Wrecking Crew. Another one that's a bit of a stretch, but I was going for that since you fight the Fierce Pork Trooper twice, and the chapter centers on a building, but yeah. If you wanted to though, you could also throw in Rob as an opponent too, to reference Little Miss Marshmallow. Next is a 2v3 in Smashville. Pink Robin joins you again, and each opponent represents a Needles boss from Chapter 7. White Donkey Kong acts as the Steel Mecharilla, and after you beat him, 3 purple Incineroars come in as the Barrier Trio, then after you beat them, a gold Captain Falcon comes in as the Masked Man. I chose Smashville for the stage since it's a small town, and Chapter 7 has the player do a lot of running around that frequently takes them through Tazmily Village. Now, if I had more time, I'd give each one of these bosses their own stages too, but Classic Mode routes only offer 7 levels. And for the final regular stage, I'd have a 3v2 on New Pork City. Here you'd have your Duster and Kumatora stand-ins for allies, and you'd be fighting two giant enemies, Bowser Jr. and Kirby, with Jr. standing in as Porky, and Kirby as the new Pork Killer Cyborg. They'd be staggered, so you'd have to defeat Kirby first before Jr. would appear. Kirby's acting as this boss since they're both pink and have attacks focusing on their mouths. And if you wanted something extra, you could throw in Wario as an opponent as a facade rep too. This mode would conclude, though predictable, with a 1v1 against Klaus. So, there. That's my fix for a practically non-existent complaint with Ultimate. Now, I may not know a ton about game design, or much about fighting games. But I do know a lot about Mother. I don't know if you know this, but I actually kind of like the games. And guess what? My opinion of this is matched to Smash's creators. That was your misstep, Sakurai. By bringing yourself down to the level of a YouTuber, your opinions and experience are completely invalid in online gaming discourse. Rest in peace, legend. Take it, David.
How many brothers fell